Okay, I think we're rolling, right? You guys heard that?
Yep.
And
That
welcome everybody to Career Management for Engineering. John Shutsky, I'm the course instructor. And I have with me tonight, we're actually recording this in the evening. I have with me Naomi Bernstein and Shane Williams. I'm really excited to have you guys here. Just to kind of give you a little bit of history, I don't know if you guys remember this. The first time I was exposed to 308, it was still being taught by Dick Straub. And I want to say it was 2016, possibly 2017. And that was the last year he taught it. And your lecture was like the most memorable. And I think at that time we called it Lessons Learned for Young Engineering Professionals. And now that's been what? That's been 10 years ago. So now we're mid career professionals. You're probably still among the youngest speakers we have in the class. So I'm really appreciative. The students do know Dr. Straub because he spoke about the FE exam and becoming a professional engineer like 3 weeks ago or so. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. And I'm going to let you kind of take it over. I know you've got some introduction slides, and I'm just going to let you take it from here. If you want to pause during things at all, I'll probably be writing down some questions, and we can either get to those in the middle part of the presentation or probably wait till the end. So, Shane and Naomi, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, John.
you.
Okay, Shane. Next
All
slide.
right. Here we go.
We
All
are
right.
rolling. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, I will introduce myself first. I am Naomi Bernstein. I am a project manager, a senior project manager at MSA Professional Services. I just started recently, so I'm still adjusting to this new role in my life. But for my history here, I was Naomi Uhlenhake is my maiden name. I included a wedding picture because over half of the wedding party was BSE folks or folks that were tied to BSE at UW-Madison, including our photographer. And I graduated from UW in May of 2006. There's an asterisk there because you were or probably still are required to take the FE before you can graduate. And I walked in December of 2005, but I had to take that exam in April of 2006. And I know they offer it all the time now, but that's something that's changed since when Shane and I were in school.
Mhm.
I earned my PE license in January 2010. And you can see I've got two lovely daughters, where my husband and I have two lovely daughters, and we love going to UW hockey games, especially the women's games. And I've been a member of ASAB since fall of 2001.
Naomi, just a quick little note for the students who might be
Yeah.
confused a little bit. We do no longer, I think this is a little bit unfortunate. We don't require the FE any longer.
Oh, okay.
However, when when Dr. Straub comes into 308, we get kind of a big take. I would say probably, I asked for a show of hands a couple days ago in class, and I'm guessing about 65 to 75% of the students will be taking it, or at least that's
Uh,
what they said in class. So that's
Oh,
actually
good.
kind of a positive outcome from his lecture.
And I would absolutely say you should take it because take it now while you're still in school and it's all of that is fresh. It's a lot easier when it's fresh versus waiting 4 or 5 years to take the FE after you graduated.
mhm.
So my career path is I had an internship at Resource Engineering Associates, and that turned into a full-time job for me. And then I ended up switching to Inside FS, essentially doing the same thing of going out to farms and doing farm evaluations and design for waste storage and stormwater and runoff management at farms at Inside FS. And I made that move because I was looking for a little bit more stability and knowing what the longevity of the company was going to be. And then I made a move in March of 2020, which I accepted the job in February of 2020 before we knew the world was going to change. And I was a project manager in the academic technology department, which is part of Do It. And I was there until January 26th of January 2026. And then now I'm a senior engineering project manager at MSA Professional Services, which is a civil engineering company that has a multitude of offices. We're mainly centered in the Midwest, but we did just acquire a company in Florida. And so they're looking to grow and grow national, but the company is about 550 people. So it's the biggest private company I've ever worked for.
Cool. All right. So as noted on the title slide, I'm Shane Williams. I'm currently a senior product engineer with Kuhn North America. Just a little bit of background on myself. So I grew up on a family farm in Barneveld, so just about 45 minutes west of Madison. We were a dairy farm up until a couple years ago, and now we still do cattle and crops. So really grew up with agriculture literally in my blood, and still a very large part of me today. Graduated from UW-Madison with a degree in machinery systems engineering through the biological systems engineering department. Bachelor's degree in 2009, and then stuck around and got a master's degree and graduated in 2011. That was something that originally was not part of my academic plan going in. But looking back on it, and even at that time, realized that it was some of the most valuable experience I had as a student. It really allowed me to apply a lot of the knowledge that I had learned and really hone in some of my project management and technical skills. So that was something that really meant a lot to me and has really helped me out.
Shane, I think I know the answer to this question. Who was your advisor for your master's? Was it Dr. Shinners?
Dr. Kevin Shinners.
Dr. Shinners, okay.
So, yep, still keep in touch with him today. So. Also got a house full of girls here at home. So my wife and I have three daughters, Margaret, Elizabeth, and most recently our youngest Audrey, who's just over 3 months old. So we're definitely very, very busy. Lots of life being lived here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So it's a whole different atmosphere. And just like Naomi, I've been involved with ASABE, and I've been a member of ASABE since the fall of 2006, so 20 years this year. And so just look at that, just draw attention to the bottom picture there. You may not see me, but I am, in fact, in the pig costume in this picture. And so this is really when my involvement in ASABE really catapulted forward. Naomi was part of a young professional leadership group, and they were doing a fundraiser and needed in a pinch somebody to dress up in a pig costume to help them out. Somehow my name came up, and I said, sure, why not? And got involved, had a lot of fun. And that really, like I said, kind of was a catalyst for my experience and involvement in ASAB. And it was, like I said, one concrete moment I can look back on and say that changed my trajectory and changed my professional experience with that group. So I like to keep that in mind. So my career path is fairly linear. So I'm, like I said, a senior project engineer with Kuhn North America. I've been there since July 2011. So that's the only job I had. I started out as a design engineer within our Hay Tool Technologies group. So primarily worked on windrow mergers for my first 6 years. And since then, I've worked on our inline bale wrappers. And so since then I've transitioned into, like I said, more of a senior product engineer. So my roles there, I've acted as a project leader and also the engineering lead for a couple of different new product development teams. My primary responsibilities really are just on product and system designs, development, as well as continuous improvement. If there's a mechanical system, a hydraulic system, electronic system, I've usually got my hands on it within those product lines. So it's really nice to be a part of kind of all the aspects of production manufacturing and production agriculture. I really get to make close personal relationships and contacts with all the different team members, all the different departments. A lot of communication, a lot of coordination goes on in what I do, and I really get a chance to interact with a lot of customers, both internally and externally. So, like I said, really like what I do, and it just ties into my background in agriculture pretty well. So what are we here to discuss today? So kind of as John alluded to, we really just want to discuss kind of our personal transitions and career paths as we've transitioned from that student role to the young and now mid-career professional. Give you all a view of kind of the real world as we see it through our eyes. And as you can guess, as we've gotten a little bit older, our views and the way we look at things has changed, and there's probably a big part of that is also due to our personal and family life now. So that does change your viewpoints. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits of professional development and networking, and then also kind of really help through the stories that we can tell, kind of tie together and reinforce some of the other topics that have been presented throughout the course and by John this semester. So we will dive right in, and we'll dive right in with something that may actually seem like a conclusion. And so we just kind of wanted to summarize a few things right away. So if there's nothing else you take from this, keep this slide in mind. Because there are some of those things that, as we've been doing this over the years, things that we really wish we would have known as we were sitting in the seat in that classroom. Kind of one of the first is knowing the difference between different retirement accounts and when to have them. Do you want a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, a savings account? The list goes on and on. What do they all mean for your situation or your future situation? So really get to know them, understand them, utilize your financial advisor if there's one available to you through your employer or if you have one personally. Um, uh, Recognizing the importance of having a personal budget. So understand what your expenses are, what your incomes are, at a very minimum. How are you going to be able to make sure you have enough money each month to tackle your expenses? And then what are you wanting to do in the future and what that means for what you need to start saving? Really, again, as you grow, it becomes much more important to maintain those skills. It's also good to keep in mind the value of investing in your future. So whatever there are ways to do to increase your personal equity, make sure that you, again, are being smart with your money, smart with your finances, and just making sure that you're setting yourself up to succeed both now and in the future. As Naomi and I have both alluded to, as our families have grown in size and grown older, you start to grow some roots after a while, and then those tend to run pretty deep. And so as you're younger in your career, it's a lot easier to travel and try new things to help yourself grow, to reach out and branch out. And so again, keep that in mind as you're transitioning out of school and into your professional careers. That's really the time when you want to try new things and to be brave and adventurous, so to speak. There are tremendous opportunities for growth and advancement in professional roles. And when you're looking to maybe get a job or comparing different job opportunities, really look at what opportunities there are within those roles to grow and advance yourself both personally and professionally. That's not necessarily always something that's on paper on an offer sheet that you can really put a quantitative value to, but really look to see what the opportunities are and what they mean for you both now and what you want your future to be. And finally, I know whenever we seem like we buy a product or we get some sort of service, right away we always get told, hey, we want your feedback. We want you to spend a few minutes and tell us what you think. And really, feedback is a gift, both being able to give it, but also learning how to take it effectively and understanding what exactly you're being told, how you can utilize that, and really to make yourself both a better engineer and better prepared for the adventures and responsibilities to come. So.
Yeah, I started approaching it as when something went wrong. What is this teaching me? That is how I started approaching that feedback of, okay, what is this teaching me? I'm here to learn. That's, if you stop learning, you stop growing. And it's been one of the great mind shifts that I've had as I've progressed through my career.
Yes.
All right. Is this mine?
Yes. We'll move into getting their first job.
All right. One of the hardest things for me as I've progressed is promoting myself and to really dive into what I am doing and say, yes, I am good at this. Hey, I should step forward. I want to do these things, and bringing that forward as I, progress through my career. So that's one of those things. Don't be afraid to step up. Don't be afraid to say, yeah, I am good at that. That is how you will end up progressing as you go. One of the key things is that your resume should be dynamic and duplicated. These days, it is so much easier with the cloud to always have access to your resume. Shane and I know you would save it somewhere and then it was gone and you couldn't find it, or that computer crashed and it was just on your desktop. Having it in the cloud and really going through it annually at least, or if you went to a good training, putting it on there. I have two different versions. I have my version with everything in my resume, and then I have the versions that I set, like pare down and send out. really putting in a lot of different your honors, if you've helped put together any publications, and like the big career milestones of I got my PE here, or these are the certifications. I am ITIL certified, which I can't even remember exactly what that means, but it was one of those things I got when I was working in IT, and it talks about change management and those type of professional development activities. Keeping track of those, keeping track of what conferences you went to, what sessions you went to. It does seem like it's a lot of paperwork, but it can really help you out as you go and be like, oh, that's right, I went to this thing. And that's where I got that information. And if you do end up getting your PE, keeping track of those credits is incredibly important for maintaining any sort of licensure or certification that you have. As you're looking at that first role, does that role allow for growth, either internally, like for within the company, or is it allowing you to grow and stretch as a person? I know that as I've changed roles, that has been a big thing that I've really looked at is, okay, how is this going to help me grow? And then also when you're taking a look at all, hopefully you'll have multiple offers. You can be like, what is the whole package? Is this really worth what I want? I had a friend, she took a job that had no vacation, which it was in sales, so it was not what you normally see in engineering. But I was like, why did you do that? You don't have vacation for the first year? Are you kidding me? Um, and she took it anyway. Like it just kind of blew my mind that that was even something offered these days, and that somebody would think that that was okay. Um, we've talked about finances. You're going to hear this as a theme for us because it really was something that Shane and I really grew and learned as we were progressing through our careers, is how much investing in your retirement, investing in yourself early really makes a huge, huge difference. If there's a company match, put in at least that much, because otherwise you're losing out on free money that's part of your package. And then Shane touched on this already, but the different retirement plans, that Roth IRA, you pay the taxes up front, so you don't have to pay the taxes later. A little bit of a gamble, but I'm expecting our taxes are going to continue to grow and get more and more taxes all the time. So we're maxing that out right now. Those are all the things. It's a lot to consider, but it is, especially if you do end up being lucky enough to have multiple offers to consider at the same time. It's really good to try to compare apples to apples, even though it's really tough. All right, so I'm going to dive into the money thing. And this is a really great example of how investing early makes a big, big difference. So you'll see here that early on, Mix Jones just put in $75 a month when they were just starting off in their career. And it was only $9,000 that ended up getting put in for those 10 years. Mr. Smith, it was $100 a month because he waited, got through some of those early times. Man, money does get tight when you first graduate. You've got student loans, you buy a car, you got to figure out rent or whatever the house payment is, and it gets tight. And so he didn't start until he was 40. Okay, but contributed for 25 years, which was quite a long time. And then Ms. Green waited until 50 to 65, and it was $54,000. So you can see how the difference, much smaller amount early, and then we've progressed. So 7% is fairly even. Shane, would you say? It's actually, I think most of my investments are higher than 7%. So that's almost low.
7% is pretty conservative. So I think
Yeah,
that's still a good,
it's pretty conservative. Yep. But you can see that $9,000 ended up being almost $100,000, even though they didn't invest after those first 10 years. So once they were at 35, they were done. It was at $100,000 and more than, oh, excuse me, than the other two. I didn't know I was doing this personal experiment. I have not been great about merging my accounts together as I have moved in my careers. And my very first career was from 2006, or my first job was from 2006 to 2010. 2010, I had $12,000 in my account and I haven't touched it. And so since then, I think the last time I checked it was at $55,000. So I gained $40,000 because I had just invested 12 at the very beginning of my career. So I would doubt that by the time I hit 65, that might be $100,000 if I don't ever merge it into my other accounts. We'll see. It's one of those goals for this year. Um, so that's the importance of saving. I can also, the other example I have is that for our kids, we decided to invest $200 a month, like for in EdVest. So that's for their college education. My oldest is currently 12. She's got over $50,000 in that account. It is just, and we have to be like, well, are we still going to save for her college education, or are we still, what's our plan here? But just being consistent and really trying to make that effort early really can set you up for success later in life.
It's really fun to see that value almost exponentially decrease as you continue to go to a certain point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is this one still me?
It sure is.
Yep. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. It won't be your last job. That's the other thing. And as you saw, I've had some career shifts, and especially that one career shift when I went from ag engineering into IT. Oh, that was scary. Was that a super scary shift? Because I didn't know what I was doing. I was diving into a completely different career than I'd ever had. Yes, I could take lots of my skills. They were transferable, but that was brand new. When you start your first job, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Yes, I said, here's all the things you can consider. It's not going to be your last job. You are not going to stay in that job forever. Shane and I put this quote in these slides. Shane and I have been doing this a long time. And I think we were both not 34 when we were like, by the time you reach 34, you'll have changed jobs 3 to 4 times. And we looked at each other and went, ooh. Shane was in the same job. I was on job 2, and we're like, ooh, we are under the average. Now I'm sure I'm at the average or above now. But Shane's, he's still at the same company, changed roles, still at the same company. Yep. That's so whatever you lock into it, you don't have to lock into it forever. Yep. Keeping your eyes on the market is a great idea. It's a good way to be like, am I being paid fair market or not? That was another thing when I shifted from ag engineering into IT. I was not being paid fair market, is what I learned once I switched in a different career. And I've been able to write that because I hadn't been really looking around. I was very comfortable. It was safe. I had a pension, like things I thought were good, but it turns out that was a job I stayed in too long, and that it was good for me to move. I was able to grow personally. I had gotten bored and I hadn't really wanted to admit that to myself. And so I was able to move on and keep moving forward. And the last thing, please use all of your vacation. Use your personal time. Go travel and do super fun things. The picture here, and you'll hear Shane and I talk, we've got families. And staying in contact with the people that we've met in college has been really important. Shane and I met in college. You see Bernie and I, my husband Bernie, we're standing in front of a U2. And that is from one of our friends that we went to college with, flies that. He flew that to EAA, and we got VIP treatment because we're his friends. Yep. And we made sure Bernie and I both took days off so we could go do that. It was an incredible experience, and it is just really important because you need that vacation time to refresh. I know I just started my job in the end of January. I was really exhausted because that job switch was an exhausting thing. We took a vacation in the end of February. I got sick while we were on that vacation, and that was the best thing because I actually rested. And while I was sick, by the time we came back, I was refreshed. And it's so important to take those breaks so that you get refreshed and you don't burn out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even using your PTO for mental health days is very big.
Yep.
So it's physical and mental.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So whether or not it's your first job, your second job, eventually it's going to happen. And so something catastrophic, some sort of big mistake is going to happen. You're going to remember it. It's going to have a big part in shaping kind of how you deal with things from then on. Looking at this picture here. So I remember this Very clearly, it was August, I believe, of 2015. We had just released kind of a new windrow merger, and I was the engineering lead on it. I got a call late on Friday that had said we had a pretty bad failure on a machine, a brand new machine up in Canada. So not even something that I could jump in a car and easily drive to. I said, "Oh, well, send me some pictures and we'll get it figured out." I waited and opened the first picture in an email and I saw this. So a brand new machine sitting on the side of the road, missing a wheel, and something that was creating quite a bit of stir from both our service department as well as our sales department. Because how are we supposed to promote this brand new product that their first introduction into this dealer in this market is sitting along the side of the road? Unfortunately, being a Friday afternoon, they couldn't get a crane to lift it until Monday. So all weekend, that piece of machinery with the Kuhn name sat on it all weekend. So that was definitely a little bit of a shot in the gut. We had just spent 3-4 years testing and had never had anything like this happen. And this is what happens. I can honestly say within 2 to 3 weeks after this, I had 2 more cases of this happening. And so again, those questions of what happened, why did it happen, what did we just do the last 3 years, what did we miss? But mistakes are going to happen. And so the main thing for you to do is to keep yourself calm, keep your composure, and react accordingly. You more than likely, people are going to remember how you responded and what the solution was and how you addressed it more than the actual error or mistake itself. How you clean it up is really what's going to leave that memorable impact. It's going to feel like the end of the world at the time, but just keep in mind, it's going to be okay. We're all engineers. What we do is we solve problems. So, all right, let's take it in stride. Let's see what we can do. And just like Naomi talked about in the previously, if you're going to fail, make sure you learn something from it. And so I was at a conference 3 years ago, and I remember hearing a talk from an engineer, also from Wisconsin, and he talked about the concept of failing forward. So make every failure memorable and learn and learn something from it. Because like we said, failure is an option.
Shane,
Yes,
I'm going to
Naomi.
add something to this.
Yep.
When that failure happens, because like Shane said, it will, make sure you document it
Oh, yes.
and write down what's going on during it, because you're going to, if you don't, you're going to wish you had. And so that documentation is likely going to be invaluable, and you can go back and reflect on it after everything and be like, oh, here's how I could have learned from this. Like Shane was talking about them reviewing, where did we go wrong in testing? How did we not come across this? Having that documentation, especially during the incident itself, any notes you can jot down, try to keep track of them. And even like times you're notified, that can come back and help you later.
Yep, for sure. That's a really good point. Because I mean, you can't control everything. So the main thing is control what you can, plan around what you can. And like Naomi talked about, taking those notes and making sure you're documenting really helps you to keep everything organized, keep in order, and even just organize your own thoughts. Like I said, I can just very much remember looking back to this experience, really second guessing a lot of things I was doing. We were trying to make some fixes actually in the plant on machines we had. And I remember I had a solution in mind. We had some production staff come in to make some changes, and I second guessed myself and decided not to, or decided that maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. And so I had to tell one of our managers and coordinators to basically, never mind, I don't think we're going to do this anymore. It turned out to be the right decision, but there was a lot of indecision on my part. And that manager and that coordinator are actually still in the company. And even though I've been there for quite some time, every time I see them, in the back of my mind, I think that they still see me as that young engineer who's indecisive, who couldn't make up his mind and had to just sit there pulling your hair for a while. So like I said, that people tend to remember the response.
Shane, are you able to talk at all? And if not, that's okay. But are you able to talk at all about the type of category of mistake that led to this failure, or is that more private?
So it was actually two things. We figured out, one, that the raw material that we were using on a certain part was generally inconsistent, and we happened to probably get a better or more controlled batch throughout some of our early testing. But also when we were hand welding some of these components, because it was one of the wheel spindles, we were able to put our tack welds in certain locations to that weren't in high stress areas. But when we were actually tooling the spindle together, those tack welds were 90 degrees in the other direction, which was right where the highest point of stress was. So the fact that we didn't fail before this was a little bit of luck, but also something that, again, a process that just wasn't well documented. So
I can safely say, I mean, I've had a long career, and those times, I mean, I can think of a small handful where it's not that necessarily that I screwed up, but things went really haywire. Um, and I can remember some of them so crystal clear, even though they were 35 or 40 years ago. But I'll tell you, those were the times I learned the most.
mm-hmm.
Like at the time, you want to crawl under a rock and just die, like literally.
Oh yeah.
And if you can kind of fight your way through it and reframe it and reappraise it as a learning opportunity, it doesn't make it any better in the short term, but it does, like you're saying, documenting it and really creating that learning opportunity it's worth gold.
Oh yeah.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
I don't encourage people to fail, but at the same time, you will, it's inevitable, you will, and when you
mhm.
do, it's part of the human condition. I think that's what you guys are saying.
Yeah. But I mean, and admittedly, you learn a lot more when something fails, because when something doesn't work, you tend to learn more of the details behind, okay, how this works, how that works, and why it didn't work. But when you try something new and it works, okay, it worked, but where could it be better?
Yeah.
So,
And by the way, that can be engineering fails, Shane. It
oh
it
yeah.
can also be I've had really bad communication fails. So I work with extension in
Mhm.
addition to my teaching stuff. So I'm out in the public a lot, and I've failed miserably in front of media people, and you just have to be a human being and clean it up and use your sense of humor and also use your authenticity. People can
Mhm.
see if you're sincere and
Yeah.
you want to clean up a mistake and move forward. And people are also very forgiving, I think,
Mhm.
Mhm.
with those sorts of things.
Oh yeah. I mean, it really comes back to like we got on here. I mean, when you make a mistake, don't hide from it. So
Yep.
learn what you can from it, but also don't just try to pass it on to somebody else, because eventually the root cause is going to come back around and people are going to figure out what exactly happened. And if you've been pushing this off or trying to deflect the responsibility, it's going to look even worse. So, like I said, just
And I do
don't
want to
hide
be
from it,
careful.
tackle it.
I want to be careful when I say this because, if something like this happens and a person is injured or there's a major cost to it, you can't really use your sense of humor with that. But with
Right.
some of the everyday failures you have in life, being able to laugh at yourself a little bit, being able so that people know, hey, he's a human being. People are usually going to be on your side
Hmm.
and will help you to overcome and learn from your mistake.
Yep. Yep. Just gotta keep moving, keep it light sometimes. So, and as part of kind of fixing those mistakes or getting things back on track, that might often require long hours. That's where the concept of work-life blending comes into play, which what I know, like when Naomi and I were younger, you often heard the term like work-life balance, and that often implies that you've got an equal distribution or equal balance of you're either working or you're not working, and it's the same amount of time either way. Really, what we know is it's not a balance; it's kind of a blend. So your personal life and your professional life tend to weave themselves together on a daily basis, almost constantly. Just because you're not in the office doesn't mean you're not working or you're not thinking about it. But just because you're in the office doesn't mean you're not thinking about what you got to be doing at home or what your kids are doing or how they're feeling right now. So just understanding that kind of in situations like this, those long hours might be necessary, but it's really just that's the exception and not always the norm there. So we've made the mess, we've learned from it. And so what can we do to try to avoid that from happening in the future? And so as Naomi alluded to here a little bit ago, taking good notes, documenting, making sure that you're learning what happened, how you can fix it, how you can make it better, and really just organizing yourself. There's You can go online and find many different apps, many different tools to help keep yourself organized. I used to have to-do lists. I used to have a task list on my Outlook. I used to fill out my Outlook calendar with different things to do. I think I've changed my organizational style probably once every 2 years, and that's just because as you grow or as things change, you just find different ways to help yourself stay organized. And really, whatever makes the most sense for you, do it. There's no right or wrong way to do that. Managing your time. So making sure that, like I said, kind of back to the work-life blending, you're given enough time to the task at hand, but also making sure you're meeting deadlines, but also keeping yourself on the timeline and the schedule that your life matters, or that matters for your life. Engineers are pretty intuitive, pretty smart people. If you feel like you're wasting your own time, you probably are. So when you get into situations like that, sometimes you gotta regroup. Maybe even take a personal day just to get clear yourself of whatever distraction or whatever might be necessary to really kind of bring your focus back to where you think it needs to be. It's really helpful, and you hear all the time, to make sure you ask questions. When you're young at a company, you'll hear a lot of people, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you need anything, just ask. And one thing that I've tried to do more and kind of learned at an early stage in my career is don't go to somebody just asking for the answer. I will try to, if I've got something I'm thinking of, approach either my boss or somebody above me. I'll have an idea in mind, and I'll approach it saying that this is what I think I need to do. I just really want to bounce this off you, maybe get a little bit of confirmation, or do you think I should reconsider this a little bit more? Again, it shows that you're able to think critically, you're being proactive, but you're not just going into it saying, all right, I don't know what to do, but I don't want to make the decision. Here, you do it. So it really just helps to keep yourself thinking and working critically. As part of kind of keeping yourself organized and getting yourself through, you're going to need some help to avoid these sticky situations, or even help yourself grow to prevent these things from happening. And so there's a quote here that we've got that can really apply to a lot of different scenarios, but really be careful of the toes that you step on today, because they may belong to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow. That really your coworkers and those that you're with all the time, they are assets. They bring different skills. They have different tools that are really able to help keep you prepared, keep you on task, and make sure that you're doing what you can and doing it the right way.
And it's another, don't talk down your competitors either, because you might start working for them.
Mm-hmm.
That is that was really where that quote came in for me and resonated, and be like, oh, right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Which is a good segue back to you, Naomi.
Okay. So I have learned that communication is one of my strong suits, and I constantly am learning more and how to do it better. One of the best courses I had when I was at UW as a career was taking a plain language course. In order to really simplify how I message things, I am a little verbose. I like to add in flourishes, and it turns out that was confusing. I've also learned the benefits of bullet points. That is really, really important in order to add clarity to your messaging, especially if it's written. And it is important to communicate like a professional. I swear it happens. I have to be very careful of my audience. Swear with my boss, he's cool with it. I try very hard to not swear around my customers, and around my colleagues, but it depends. You kind of have to gauge your who your audience is. Knowing your audience is incredibly important. Also, the tone I use when I am speaking with my clients and my farms is very different than the tone I use when I'm working with DNR and when I'm working with regulators. And knowing that your communications may become open record available, and keeping those things in mind is really important. With knowing your audience, knowing what situation you're in, just being aware of your surroundings, going and having private conversations out in restaurants. You just never know who exactly is around. I learned that at UW. It's such a massive, massive network of people. And I don't think I ever did it, but I was definitely at establishments and I would hear things where I'm like, oh, I know who they're talking about. They don't know who I am, but I know what's going on there. So it's something just to be very aware of. And also AI, something Shane and I did not have when we were in school. Um, I don't think John did either, but there are ways that AI can be incredibly helpful. Like I talked about plain language and using that. If there's something where I'm just like, okay, I've written it down, but this just, I don't feel great about the messaging here, toss it into AI, see if it can go through and do the wording. We did that with our Christmas card this year, and we pulled most of what AI told us out. Because it didn't sound like us. It wasn't us talking. So that is, and if you do use AI, review what it gives you because it can't, will still hallucinate. It will still add in things and it may not be accurate. That's, you just have to. Um, I joke because my husband is not a great speller, and you'll see this message of this down at the bottom. And his colleagues, it's all good, it's great, but like there are people that will judge you if you don't spell things correctly. Now he does not care. He's like, well, if they don't accept me for who I am, that's what it is. But it can cost you. The other thing is understanding your current situation goes with that stop sign. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? If any of those things are happening, chances are you're not going to be your best self in your communication status. And I also learned if you're getting sick, sometimes you can't really identify that you're getting sick, but that will also cause that. Where I talked about that I was exhausted before we went to vacation, my communication was not great. And then it turned out I got sick because I was probably so exhausted. So it's knowing what your current situation is and just being aware of that, and keeping snacks with you is also and your water is also a very good idea.
I've even
Naomi,
found in situations like that where you're in areas where maybe you're not feeling completely normal or a little bit emotional, or something happens and you've kind of got a raw response to it. I use my drafts folder in my email quite a bit. I will often draft up an email and I will sit on it for a day or two and I will
Yeah.
revisit it and see, do I still feel this way? Is that really how I feel, or was that more of just in the moment? Because sometimes even 2 days later, okay, that was genuine, and that's something that needs to be said. And oftentimes I'll go back 2 days later and that hits the delete box right away. But at least it allows you an avenue to sit to again, organize yourself, and then also just recognize the situation that you're in.
I thought I'd just jump in here. You guys have three, yeah, between the two of you, you got five girls, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
nobody's of teenage yet. In
Yet.
your nobody's
Real
in their
close.
nobody's in their adolescence quite yet. But one of the things that I have learned on the halt, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, or getting sick, is like that prefrontal cortex, the frontal part of your brain that helps you with communication. Like there are times when you're hungry or tired, especially maybe getting sick, where you'll look back, and I've talked about this with my students. You'll look back 2 days later and think, "Oh my God, I was behaving like a child," because you're just not quite thinking straight. And a lot of times it's because that prefrontal cortex is either not nourished or it's tired, or in the case of teenagers, it's because it's not fully developed. That's why teens are like, you guys are in for a really fun time when they get to be about 14, 15, up to about 21-ish is when
Two
it
to three
starts to.
years old is really fun too.
Yeah, it is. I think
There's
I
no
think
filter
seven
there.
seven seven is really fun. I loved seven. 7 to 9. They still have great respect. Anyway, don't want to sidetrack us.
All right. Other reminders, your social media is public, even though you can lock it down. So it's only people you know, but turns out you got connections. They got connections. If you let friends of friends see things, just be really careful and cautious about what you put out there. I mentioned this already. Don't talk down to the competition. Might be your team tomorrow. I mean, that is really. I'm at MSA now. They were technically my competition. I mean, I was a one woman shop when I was at FS, but they did the same thing I did. And turns out it worked out well that I collaborated with them, even though we were competitors, we were still working together as well. And it opened up an opportunity for me. I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons is I got hired is because they already knew me and they already knew I was good. So that was part of the reason. Oh gosh, it's like we've done this before, Shane. I've already touched on all these. The people are
Yeah.
always listening around you. You got to be careful. Even when you are not officially representing your company, you still are.
Mhm.
Um, and then also, don't store your personal content on the company stuff because you just never know when things could get shut off. My personal experience is that while I was from UW, I was laid off because they eliminated our department. They stopped offering our services. Now, there was a long leeway, and I could, if there was, I don't store anything on company things, so I didn't have to move anything personal. But if for some reason they decide to eliminate your job, even if you did nothing wrong, they could shut it off immediately and you won't have access to it anymore. So it
Mhm.
is really important. Also, if you do have things that you somehow got mixed and you decide to leave, take all of your personal stuff off of the company storage before you put in your notice because they could walk you out.
Exactly.
All right. Back to after your first job, really what you're looking for next. If you can find that purple dot in the center, that's amazing and wonderful. Um, like I just spoke about, I tried really hard to not burn any bridges at UW. I was pissed. I was really upset. And I really had to work very, very hard to not burn any bridges. I would like to think I didn't, but I guess that will, come to show later. But it is really important if you move on or if you leave, do it respectfully and that people will honor that as you move forward. Um, One of the really interesting things that I have developed, and I haven't even told Shane this, is if you want, start putting together an exit plan before you ever leave so that you can evaluate so you don't stay in a job too long. My exit plan is a lot of things about is leadership being transparent with me? Are my ideas being listened to? Do I feel valued? And, that's why I might love the work I'm doing, but if leadership sucks, I'm not necessarily going to stay anymore. That is kind of what I have learned as I've grown through my profession. I want to stay as close to that purple dot as I can. And I may have strayed some of that along the way, but really trying to get back to that finding your purpose. If you can find a job that aligns with your purpose, awesome. If you can't, make sure in your personal life you are finding ways to fulfill that purpose in order to find your balance and your happy place.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, really, your personal and your professional growth are really interwoven, and so they
Yeah.
really are kind of complement each other. And so, um, I think one of the key themes that we've really been discussing as we've gone on so far is that you should never stop growing, both in your role and on a kind of on a personal level. And so, just because you graduate, it doesn't mean you're done learning, you're done with your education. Um, every year there's more and more young engineers that are entering the field that know just as much as you do, if not more. Technology changes. You are replaceable, and so make sure that you are still valuable, and make sure that you are keeping up with what you need to know to do your job and to do it effectively. Um, One way to add value to yourself is to utilize professional development opportunities, and that also benefits your employer. And so that's something that a lot of employers will offer reimbursement for continuing education. And so if you are lucky enough to get into a role or work for a company that allows this, definitely take advantage of it. And if they don't, maybe sell them on the opportunity to do so. I know I've utilized at Kuhn, we've got a continuing education program that I've been able to, I think at last count, I've done about 10 hours of various different classes, that anything ranging from how to make pivot tables in Excel to a J1939 vehicle communications class, things that I was able to sell to my boss, that I think this will make me more adept and better at the project that I'm working on. And I think that will inherently bring value to the company. And so they were very willing and accepted that. And so, like I said, it benefited both them and myself. Um, Networking, you hear it all the time, but it's definitely very true. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You are not expected to know everything all the time. But the odds are, if there's something you don't know, you probably know somebody that does. So I can't count the number of times that I've gotten phone calls from people that I've met, most often through ASABE, that maybe they work on a different product or a different process, but they know that I've got some background or education on a different area, and they'll give me a call. And after we catch up for about 5 minutes, we'll talk about what the topic at hand is, and it's usually a very mutual to do that. As you're networking, make sure that you're making intentional connections. So those that you're meeting, make sure you follow up with them. You understand the kind of the significance of that relationship and the value it can bring. And sometimes you've really got to step outside of your comfort zone to grow. So engineers, we're creatures of habit. This can be very hard, but that's really one of the most beneficial ways to grow, is just getting outside your comfort zone and trying to learn those new things. There's
John,
a lot
how
of
are we
different
doing on time?
opportunities.
Hang on, Shane. How are we doing on time,
Yep.
John?
I think if we got like maybe 4 or 5 more minutes, is that okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's a lot of different ways to grow. Naomi and I have taken advantage of a lot of different experiences, both local and national, to grow. I mean, there's volunteer opportunities with local churches or other charities, just playing club sports. So again, just getting to know people maybe outside of your professional field, but something that you have in common with. Trade shows and conferences are great opportunities. Everything's all about social networking these days, but actually do that in person, make those connections in person, get to know people, have a physical conversation. You can really learn a lot more about people that way. And then also look at professional societies. So kind of regardless of the engineering field you're in, they most have some sort of professional society. Again, Naomi and I have been very involved in ASABE. And so that's really allowed us a lot of different leadership and professional growth opportunities. Naomi's going to touch here real quick on some PE details.
Yeah. And so getting your PE for me was one of those things I wanted to strive to do. And everything that's listed here were key aspects of why I wanted to be a PE and why I still am a PE. That was when I left engineering, I maintained my PE license. I did let some of my other technical certifications go. I kept this. So when the opportunity came for me to return to engineering, I could still go get my PE. And my husband looked at me and goes, "There's a reason you kept it. It's because you loved it." And so that is, and it's really, for me, this one that stands out is ethically, it's the right thing to do. For me, working in consulting, it holds me to a standard of ethical standards that for me speak to my heart and that I want to make sure that I'm following. So there's all these beautiful things about being a PE. For me, it's an extra layer of responsibility, sometimes an extra layer of stress, and it holds me accountable and then helps hold my customers accountable and the contractors, and we all work together on these things.
Naomi, was it required for your new MSA job?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no way I would have this job if I didn't have my PE.
Yeah. So it's a foot in the door for a lot of people for a lot of the different types of jobs, especially I think more in the natural resource environment area, doing that kind of.
And there's a need. There's a strong need for having a PE right now. We are down on PEs. Lots of them are retiring. And so, especially in the natural, like you said, in the natural resources area, huge need for PEs right now. All right, next slide, Shane.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. NCES is the professional licensure body for getting your PE. One of the beautiful things they have is tracking your professional development there. I am only licensed in Wisconsin. That's going to change. One of the requirements of my new job. I'm going to have to get licensed in Minnesota also. And it's so much easier to track all of your different licensure requirements because each state is a little different, is very easy to do on the NCES website. So I got to get all of my professional development there. I haven't done that yet. Next slide. We're going to go fast.
Yep. So professional licensure is a great way to, like you said, hold yourself to a higher ethical standard. But there's other opportunities available. And so one of those is the Order of the Engineer. It really helps to reinforce the importance of ethics, accountability, and really pride in the engineering profession. And really helps us to remind ourselves of the risks that we have to manage and deal with on a daily basis as we make decisions, and that those decisions have consequences, and some of those consequences have a lot of gravity behind them. So not going to go through all the bullet points here, but really it's really supposed to meant to foster a sense of pride in our profession. So it's a voluntary membership, and it's offered to many different groups of people. But two of the groups that are probably most pertinent to this is seniors in an ABET accredited engineering university within 2 terms of graduation, so i.e. seniors, so that's probably some of you, as well as graduates of any ABET accredited engineering university. So it's not a membership organization. You don't pay any dues. It's just something that, again, helps to remind yourself of the ethics and the accountability. One of the cool things about it is as you accept the order, you get a stainless steel ring, if you can kind of see it. It's worn on the pinky of your working hand, and that's meant to, every time you're signing documents, you're here, hit the table, just remind you of the oath that you took for the ethics, and help to hold yourself to that higher standard, similar to the Hippocratic Oath that doctors and those in the medical profession take. So just to kind of really wrap things up, kind of hitting on some of the things that we have discussed already. Working on teams and working effectively is invaluable. Having those soft skills, that emotional intelligence, really being able to communicate and being able to be a team player is absolutely critical. Get your elbows dirty. Get to know what you're working on. Get out in the field. Take in the experience, and really kind of just dive in head first to whatever it is that you're working on. Like we talked about, long hours. The job's not always done at 5 o'clock, so make sure that you put in the time that you need and are able to still keep everything in balance there. We've talked a lot about priority shift, and that's going to be okay. Your life changes, you grow up, things change. Just because your interests were one thing, or you felt like your career path was going in one direction, doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. So you're going to grow and you're going to develop both personally and professionally. When you start to feel overwhelmed, think small. For me, productivity tends to snowball. And so when you've got a lot going on, sometimes just checking those small things off your to-do list really helps you gain some momentum and just really kind of pushing through and taking some of those things off your plates. But also don't be afraid to tell somebody. So again, just being able to vent, being able to share whatever it is, how you're feeling, can often lighten the load enough to really help you to stay focused and then stay on task. And then being able to see the big picture, but also see tomorrow. So planning is often long-term and short-term. All timelines are built up of many individual milestones. And so being able to tackle those in the short term really helps to keep the long-term goals and timeline in mind. So anything else you want to add to this, Naomi?
Yeah, great job.
Perfect.
So just going back, keep on this slide for a moment, if you would. If you feel overwhelmed, I also want to go back to Naomi's slide. If you're feeling overwhelmed, make sure you're getting enough sleep. You might want to eat a protein bar.
Yeah.
Like if I teach at night and I'm like, oh my, I just get zony, and it's usually because I haven't eaten enough, haven't got enough sleep, or I'm not hydrated. Hey, I do want to ask you guys, your next slide's your questions, right? Yeah. I'm going to ask, as we kind of wrap up here, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. But by the way, your message about, and I think you both talked about this, the critical importance of not burning bridges. There will be so many opportunities in your careers, whether you are my age or 21 years old as a student. There are going to be bridges that are going to be wanting to be burned. Don't burn them. And it can be like, it could be somebody clear across the country that you're going to run into in the future. And that person may be a person who gives you a job or that you partner with on a project. Like I can tell you so many times where the best advice I got as a student was never burn bridges. My dad always told me the same thing as well. So thank you for that. But I wanted to ask you guys both a question, and I'm going to start with you, Shane, and then give you, Naomi, just a moment to think about it. So Shane, you had the pig costume at the beginning, and you sort of said like that was this kind of landmark thing, memorable for you. Obviously, you got a picture of it. I think it might be because you pushed yourself out of your comfort zone just a little bit, maybe kind of took a risk? Was that
Yeah.
like part of it at all, or?
Yes and no. I mean, I was not afraid to do something to maybe make a little bit of fun out of myself. And so at least being in the costume, no one really knew who I was. But I mean, like I said, really what I take from that, I met so many great people that were also
Yeah.
that Naomi knew also at that time. And it really just comes back to it's not what you know, it's who you know, and
Yeah.
getting to know those people. We had a lot of similar interests, seeing what they were able to do. Really just they led and I followed. And
Yeah.
so, and that just continued on until the point that I realized that I could turn around and see that I was now leading and there was those following me. And
Yeah.
so it all started there.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. I have a student who just like he
Mhm.
just was sharing with me today. He actually was weighing, I don't want to name names, two competing, like he wasn't getting much in terms of bites on resumes and things for an internship. Started literally picking up a phone and trying to get a hold of people. He's got
Mhm.
two offers now, like literally within like 24 hours of each other. And that's like because he was not scared to kind of reach out. How about you, Naomi? Any examples of where you've kind of put yourself out there? Probably not a pig costume, but you know what I'm saying, that kind of thing.
Um, really, for me, it was when I burned out and didn't hold myself accountable, got overextended, and took a step back. Like that was very scary. And it was almost I had to pull myself back in, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna try something new. And that ended up being a pivotal moment for me going into project management and IT. I learned a ton about IT and I
Yeah,
learned a ton about organizational skills. That, while it may have circled me back, now that I'm utilizing those skills in the engineering world, I am able to put in efficiencies that the team doesn't
yeah,
currently have, and that we are going to become a much more well-oiled machine. It's a good machine now that our team that I work with, but we have got some areas of pretty easy improvements that we can put in place that I'm leading. And that has become one of those big steps that
awesome.
is putting myself out there really stepping into this role that I'm at MSA, this has been a big leap for me. And it also feels very comfortable and very right. So while it's been a stretch role, I think it's going to be really, really wonderful.
So
So it could
you
be I'm
took
in the honeymoon phase. I don't
yeah,
know.
so you took the risk. You left FSA or FS, you took the risk.
Yep.
You went into a totally different area, not really ag
Yes.
related, right? Like university
Not at all.
technology. But
Yeah.
then you picked up all of these transferable skills and now they're directly transferable and it's
Yes.
exactly what you're back in like your area of that you originally
Yeah.
studied and you've got this new set of skills. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you again so much for being here, like for the 10th year in a row. By the way, I was thinking about this. We actually did tape. COVID hit right in the middle of 308 in March of
Mhm.
2020. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
2020. And we did
Yep.
a taping, and it was probably kind of late, like it is here tonight. So I appreciated you doing it then. I've also appreciated you being in class. And then again, thank you for doing this here this evening. So I'm going to go ahead
And
and
that was recording. Oh, sorry. I was going to say that was recording when I switched jobs.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I still do have it, by the way, if you'd like to see that. So, anyway,
Okay.
I am going to stop recording. Thank you for watching this. And thank you, Shane and Naomi, for being with me tonight.
Excellent.